Hi everyone, how are you doing? It's Debbie and I am finally here to do my sweetener video that I've been promising to you for, oh gosh, probably about a month. So without further ado, let's just jump right into it. I have my show and tell products here to aid as I go through the video. And I'm gonna start over here with the first product, which you can see clearly is a big giant box of Splenda, otherwise known as sucralose. Splenda falls in the category of an artificial sweetener. Completely artificial, completely a chemical, nothing natural about it. In this same category, and I don't have any to show, is equal, which are the blue packets, and saccharin, which are the pink packets, known as sweetenlow. So sweetenlow equals Splenda, saccharin, aspartame, and sucralose. Sucralose, as far as artificial sweeteners, has always been our artificial sweetener of choice for myself and our family. And there's a backstory for me with artificial sweeteners, and that is that in 1999, so way back in the day, I made a decision that was very impactful for my life, to my benefit, and that was to give up sugar. Processed sugar that had calories and carbohydrates and was used in baked goods and syrups and sodas and stuff like that. I decided to give that up because I found it was a trigger for me, and I would oftentimes eat way more than I should of the product, and it wasn't good for my waistline. I knew it wasn't good internally. And so I gave it up for a year, and after that year, I decided to make that a permanent decision in my life. And so I had, inside of that year, I really moved on to the artificial sweeteners. At that time, it was more equal than sucralose, and then sucralose came around after in the form of Splenda. So for me personally, it was actually a better decision for me to get away from really overeating sugar and replacing it with the 0 calorie, 0 glycemic index artificial sweetener. It had its place in my life. And I know that for some people it has its place, but there's other things that it does in your body chemically. It makes you think that you're hungry, and it can make you actually eat more of other foods, even if you're avoiding sugar. So there are some properties about this chemical that aren't good and that can be counterproductive to a weight loss or just overall healthy desire in your life. So I'm migrating away from those things right now, but they definitely had a place, and I still today will eat some things with Splenda in it or drink some diet sodas with Splenda in it. I love the taste, and sometimes I just want it, and so I do have it, and I'm okay with that. But what it does, and it still does, keep me away from the sugar. As long as sugar is the 4th ingredient or down in a product, I allow that on a limited basis when I'm not following a particular program like keto right now. But it keeps me away from binging on sugar. So artificial sweeteners aside, moving on to the other kinds of sweeteners, we have the next category, sugar alcohols. In the sugar alcohol category, you will find your erythritol, your xylitol, your malitol, maltitol, those types of sweeteners. The good thing about them is that they do come from a natural source. They're naturally occurring in fruits and vegetables. And I think xylitol even can come from the birch tree or something like that. Erythritol comes from corn. So optimally, you want to find out if your erythritol product comes from non-GMO source from a purist perspective. But they are definitely natural source. They are manufactured in order to get the product to the consumer, but it is derived from a natural source, which is good. So it's one step closer to natural, right? Well, that's a good thing. There are many different brands of sugar alcohols, and I'll go into, like my favorites and what you see here, I'll go into that. But just overall general, you've got the artificial sweeteners, you've got the sugar alcohols. Sugar alcohols also are very, very low on the glycemic index, in some cases 0, and they have 0 to just trace calories and carbohydrates. Erythritol, I understand from my research, doesn't have any carbohydrates or any calories. Erythritol also is a favorite of mine because it doesn't cause the gastrointestinal distress that some of the other products can do. Erythritol is processed in the small intestine as opposed to the large, and so it does cause less gastrointestinal distress if you're inclined toward that in your own personal body. Something about xylitol too that I want to be really clear and careful to mention is that it can be fatal to dogs. And because I love my dogs, I don't even want to have that product in the house. I'll use it maybe if it's an outside source at a restaurant or a coffee shop or something like that. But in my house, I don't want to have it because I don't want to take that risk with my dogs. Also, xylitol has a little bit more calories than erythritol. And then the other sugar alcohol I mentioned, malitol and maltitol, oh my goodness, those for me create huge gastrointestinal distress. And we know what that means. That means you're going to be spending more time in a particular room in your house than you really want to. So yeah, and backstory to that, when I first went off of the sugar and was going to the artificial sweeteners, my introduction to sugar alcohols was in the form of malitol found in the candies at the sweet factory. I was so excited. Oh my goodness, I can go to the sweet factory, and I gave up sugar and chocolate and everything, but the sweet factory has sugar-free candies and chocolates. Yay! I bought a bag of it and proceeded to do what I normally would do with sugar, which was eat a ton of it. Oh no, never again. Never again have I done that. Never again will I do that. I was quite ill. So I learned that experientially to avoid particularly malitol, maltitol, that type of thing. So no good. And then moving on to the next category, which are the natural sweeteners that are not a sugar alcohol. And those are the two that I'm aware of. I think there are some more too, chicory root, root fiber, things like that. But the two that I have used are stevia and monk fruit. And stevia has been in use, I think, for 300 years, like a long time. Monk fruit for even longer. I've read 800 years. Like what? These have been around forever, ever. And we're kind of just coming, it's a little bit newer. I mean, you still can't find some of these products in the regular grocery store. Stevia, you can't. Stevia, people are really familiar with that and definitely using it. Monk fruit, less so. It's hard to find. It's more expensive. But what companies have done, because they have found that the consumer generally thinks that stevia is kind of bitter. I know for me personally, it's got a bitter aftertaste. It's got an anise aftertaste, like a licorice. And I don't like it just on its own. I've used sweet leaf, which is really, really pure and good. I've used that for a long time as far as a stevia, but didn't really care for it because it still had that bitter taste. But I knew it was a natural sweetener, so I was good with it. But companies have realized that people want to be more natural, and they don't necessarily want to spend the money or try to find monk fruit, and it's not as sweet anyway, and they want to have a more palatable product, so they've blended, which is awesome. I mean, that's my favorite, with the exception of this one I'm going to talk about, which is pure stevia. But the blends are wonderful, and you see a lot of those on the market. You do have to be careful with blends though, because what they blend into it may not be just limited to a sugar alcohol and a natural sweetener. They will put maltodextrin in there sometimes, and that's a carbohydrate, or they'll put sugar in some products, like some Truvia or more your baking products will contain maltodextrin or in some cases sugar. So really, really important whenever you're getting a sweetener and you're not 100% familiar with it, just turn it over and read the back, read the ingredients, not just the label, but the ingredients very specifically. And then you'll know what it is that you're taking and make a decision accordingly. You know, some people may be okay with having the sugar in there. Some may not want it in there, me, for example. So going into the products and what I like and maybe don't like, what I like better than others. Of course, we've already discussed, I love Splenda. I love it. I love it in any product that I've had it in. I love it, but it's artificial and I'm migrating away from that. So I'm going to push this one off to the side and just say, trying to move on, make better decisions. And then I went purist. I went with just plain stevia, which I showed you in the sweet leaf. not so palatable to me. So I was trying to find like, I want to avoid the glucose impact and the insulin impact, and I want to be natural, and I want to do all those things. I want to reduce my carbohydrates, especially right now because I'm following keto, my keto chronicles, my keto experiment. So what do I do and what products do I use? So I have been trying a plethora of them, as you can see here. So just going really quick. So monk fruit, you can get it in liquid form, you can get it in granular form. Not as sweet as I'd like it to be, hard to find, expensive. So that's not my favorite. Pure stevia, and this is a stevia liquid with vanilla in it. A lot of people like the liquid. I don't like the liquid. I don't know why. I just don't care for the taste so much. The pure stevia, too much stevia taste to me. This puppy, however, you guys, Indigo Neely introduced this one to me. This is Trim Healthy Mama. It is wonderful. And see this little tiny baby spoon that I showed you when I did my coffee video? Oh my gosh, this product is good. And for some reason, I don't mind the aftertaste of Trim Healthy Mama's stevia. The only problem is you have to order it online, but you know, just order it in advance and you can get it. But I tend to use this a lot. I use it every morning in my Rocket Fuel latte. And then the blends, I am loving the blends. I bought Pure for the first time ever. Got that at Walmart online. Introduced my husband to this, and he is using it exclusively for his coffee. He even introduced it to one of his colleagues, and that gentleman is now using Pure. So kind of cool. So this is an erythritol and stevia blend. It's good. This has kind of a vanilla flavor to me, and it's granular. Swerve, love Swerve too. You see that in many, many different recipes. They call for Swerve. I like Swerve. It's a little bit more, it's granular, but it's got a little bit of a powdery texture. You can buy this in a confectioner style, maybe this too. And if you don't have the confectioner style, secret trick, just put the granular product in a blender. Dun ta da. You have powdered confectioner style sweetener. It's awesome, but you have to be careful. Make sure you keep the lid on because it goes all over the place. Whew. And again, a liquid. This is an erythritol and stevia blend. It is Pure Via. It is pure. You need to be careful with the Truvia and the Pure Via and stuff because they sometimes add maltodextrin and stuff like that, but not in this case. And then this is interesting. Remember I said I had ordered something from Australia? This is it. It's Natvia. And I heard about this brand from HCG Chica. And it's good. I like the fact that it's in little individual packets that you can just carry in your bag or in your pocket or whatever. I don't know, but it's nice for traveling. These two, I haven't found them in individual packets. Maybe they're out there. I just have to look harder. And I don't want to just use the plain pure sweet leaf stevia. I prefer the blends. So this is nice. It's expensive. It comes directly from Australia. It took a while to have it delivered, but it's great. And then at Starbucks now, they have this thing. It's Whole Earth. I'd never heard of it, but it has the ingredients, hard to read, but it has erythritol, fructose, and chicory root fiber in it, maybe something else. So I'm hesitant to use this. I've used it a few times. It tastes pretty good. It's granular, so it doesn't really melt if you have a cold beverage. Same with some of these other granular, like I use the Natvia, Natvia, by the way, is an erythritol and stevia blend. And it doesn't melt as well in a cold beverage. But I mean, I just thought it was interesting though that Starbucks is trying to carry something like this. It's different. I probably won't be using it very much. I just grabbed it for purposes of the demo. But anyway, there you go. That's my sweetener video. I hope that you found this helpful and interesting. And again, I want to state really clearly that this is just my own personal research, as limited as it was, and my own personal experience. So use it as you wish. And I encourage you to go out and do your own research and your own experimentation and find out what works best for your personal body. Because like I always say, we're all unique, we're all different, and what works for one may not work for another. And that's the beauty of all of us as human beings, right? So Anyway, that closes out my sweetener video for you. I hope that you found it informative. And if you like this content, please let me know by pushing like and subscribing to my channel. That would really help me out. I appreciate it. And y'all have a beautiful day. Talk soon. Bye-bye.